My philosophy is based really on the whole child. It's a focus on how we grow children. In fact, the motto of our school is "Together we grow." Our context is that almost 30% of our students come from a background other than English, and that adds a great richness to our school. When the Australian curriculum was first introduced, I was actually quite excited because I saw it as a great opportunity for for some standardisation across the states. We get a lot of children from the eastern states, and certainly to know that when they come here that they have studied the same things, are involved in very similar programs, I think that was going to certainly make it much easier for those children. The other aspect of it that I liked was around the structures that have been put in place, the focus on things such as the humanities, science, and certainly that clear focus on English and mathematics. But also just that whole notion of global citizenship again. I think the general capabilities, picking up on such things as creativity, children's thinking skills, those sorts of things add that richness of context that children really need in the 21st century education.
We have found that the best way to approach the Australian curriculum is a whole school approach. We've found that focusing on one learning area in particular and saturating the staff with that learning area is the best way to go. What we've also then done is combined all of our school planning processes, budget allocations, resource purchases. Anything that involves what goes on in the school is centred around the learning area that we've been focusing on. As a large school, we are able to have all of one particular year level out of the classroom at the same time so that all of the classroom teachers working in that year level can plan and collaborate together. So consequently, within a primary school, a timetable has emerged as a really important aspect of school management in order to facilitate the Australian curriculum.
We have 5 staff in our pre-primary centres. 4 of those staff were new to this year. So I thought at the beginning of the year we needed to create something that would be able to show all staff a scope and sequence of what needs to be covered in pre-primary for foundation. So we created something that linked each of the areas in literacy, language and literature to reading, writing, listening and speaking. We pulled the history curriculum apart for foundation stage, and then we worked out what other general capabilities could fit within that. So what it's resulted in this year is a beautiful topic on exploring children's personal history. This sort of an integrated project that embeds English and maths and arts and technology and some real personal communication skills allows for the children to be interested and to continue that interest.
The Australian curriculum was the impetus for our staff to start looking at different ways of delivering all of the new content. So our staff have been looking at our one-to-one laptop program, the use of iPads and technology, interactive whiteboards, as well as introducing learning spaces into the classrooms.
The learning spaces have really changed the way the children work. They have become far more responsible in how they go about their task and in supporting each other. We had a traditional classroom, desks, rows, groups. After this PD, we decided that we would start to ease this group into having varied learning spaces. And so we think about the different activities and we vary them, which caters for all the different learning styles that children have and enable us to embed the general capabilities into our everyday teaching and learning program.
With our spelling, we've got 4 different ability groups and we have designed activities to cater for their different needs. The children, they actually quite enjoy spelling, which is amazing. The children who struggle with spelling can get involved in activities confidently, and we have noticed that they will use the knowledge of, they're back on doing sounds, they use that knowledge in their reading. I think particularly the mastery has made them more confident with that because they are definitely getting practice every day with their words.
One of the things I love about the Australian curriculum is that the children are coming to school, to year 4, with the right language. And an example would be maths. We used to get children come from year 3, talk about corners and edges, and we'd be it's a vertex. And now they are teaching them the correct language.
We're very lucky. We work in a cluster of schools and we work very closely together. And one of the things that we really ask our staff to do is to be innovative, to take risks. We say failure's okay as long as we learn from our mistakes. And certainly everything we do, and particularly with the Australian curriculum, hasn't been a fantastic success first try. But what we have done is looked at what we've done, reviewed the processes that we've put in place, and then we've gone back and remodelled and reshaped it so that it actually starts to work for us.
We spend a lot of time as a cluster talking about the Australian curriculum, looking at how it's implemented in each of the schools, sharing ideas amongst each of the schools, and a lot of our staff also provide professional learning to other schools. So as part of our implementation of the Australian curriculum, we support our staff to go on professional learning opportunities so that they can get a more broader sense of how the curriculum might look in their classroom.
Through my training, I was taught that you shouldn't be looking at the Australian curriculum in isolation for the subject areas. You should be looking at how you can integrate it through amongst the other learning areas as much as possible. I'm really fortunate to be working in a collaborative environment with 2 other Years 6-7 teachers. In this environment, we basically have our desks together and we plan as a collaborative unit. And we teach against the whole 90 students, which is a really good opportunity to give them as much variety as possible. Another aspect of the curriculum where we broke it up to best cater for the children was in mathematics. So basically this semester I've taken the geometry strand so that I could go into depth really well with the children. Pete has taken the chance and data strands and Belinda has taken algebra. So obviously by taking and splitting up the strands that we could each go into a lot more depth than what you would if you were solely on your own. When I plan using the Australian curriculum, between the 3 of us teachers, we all have our own individual web pages which we have created for the student to access. My web page includes basically a task and a lesson focus so the children know exactly what part of the curriculum they will be covering for that lesson and what I will be expecting them to be assessed on at the end of the lesson, so that formative and ongoing assessment. Basically it gives them access to 24/7 access to the website, and if they need to catch up on anything, that means that they know exactly what to do. And quite often there's a rubric on there or an assessment tool where they will be required to self-assess, and then we'll be going over that. So it's the multiple forms of assessment.
My areas of specialty at the moment are looking at digital citizenship, science, and when we're working in maths rotations, implementing geometry. At the moment, we're looking at different forms of assessment and the way that we can collate that information. We do a lot of self-assessment, peer feedback, and obviously teacher-directed formative and summative assessment. At the moment, we are looking at ways that we can create a digital assessment portfolio. So what that would mean is being able to pull out all of the content descriptors and achievement standards and allow the students to find pieces of work that best represent their understanding of that topic. Our school is driven by best practice, and obviously a lot of the research we use at Landsdale Primary is driven by John Hattie. So hopefully this project will make reference to a lot of his indicators for student success. So we're embedding peer feedback, self-assessment, student growth, the ability to work with others, all of which has proven to lead to better student outcomes.
Okay, the implementation of the Australian curriculum has been a gradual process. Our school administration team have looked at the good practice that we have here at Landsdale, and then we've looked to see how what we do here fits with the demands of the new curriculum, and from that we've looked to see where we need to step up and what changes or adaptations we've had to make. My involvement in technology at this school comes from previous experience, but also with a passion for the subject. My second year here, I worked in close collaboration with a colleague who's very involved as an Apple Distinguished Educator, and from that, between us and our line manager, we've spent a lot of time and effort sharing our expertise and allowing other staff members to really grow and flourish in their own learning journey for integrating technology into education. Technology is embedded at our school to a point where it's no longer a novelty, it's seen as a learning tool, and that allows us to appreciate the diversity of students' learning styles. In particular, when it comes to things like assessment, the students can present or be assessed in so many different ways rather than just a 20-minute pen and paper test. The process we went through was doing some background research into work like Professor Stephen Heppel, who is a great innovator in learning space and learning design. We looked at Eric Mazur's work on flipped classroom, as well as looking into how technology can augment what we're doing in class.
Fortunately, because we're an independent public school, over recent years we've been able to actually merit select our staff, and that has meant that when we look at the priorities of our school, we've been able to match those teachers with those priorities, and we're finding that that's bringing a great strength to the sort of programs that we're operating in our school.
As part of managing the arts curriculum here at Landsdale Primary School, we have specifically selected specialist teachers. So we have a music specialist, a visual arts specialist, and we also have a drama specialist. They work collaboratively together on whole school projects that all of the students are able to be involved in that can showcase their skills in all areas of the arts. So what's next for us at Landsdale is looking at the achievement standards and ensuring that we have some consistency within our staff. And it's going to be about identifying the kinds of assessments and the kinds of activities that we can have going on in the classroom that support children demonstrating their understanding of the achievement standards.
It really is for me about being up to date with my educational thinking, having a good knowledge of what's going on, looking at world's best practice. I recently attended Andy Hargroves and Michael Fullen's program in Singapore, which was looking at change management. And I think when I look at what is happening globally, I know that Australia is on the right track. You know, it is about doing more with less. And we also know about the research that tells us that teachers are the ones who make a difference. Looking forward, I really would like to see the technology in our school as being quite ubiquitous. In other words, it just underpins the good pedagogy. It's not the driver of our teaching and learning. And I think the other thing is I would like our staff and students to really be deeply engaged in their learning so that they're always learning together.